All right, I got you. Good. We good?
Mm-hmm.
You sure, bro?
Yeah.
Drop the camera. It's like a educational type of situation, or can I cut?
It's some Jesus, some biblical cuss words, you know. Let me stop asking all the questions. Let me know when y'all ready so I can hit the record button.
Okay. I'm ready.
3, 2.
Hey everyone, I'm your host, TheTagan, and this is Founders Get Funds. Welcome to Founders Get Funds. I'm your host, TheTagan. Today's guest is Cleveland native David Pritchett, here to discuss funding strategies for B2B at a food company. David is currently the Chief Operation Officer for Holmes Mouthwatering Applesauce. He joined the company shortly after college, but he knew the founder, Ethan Holmes, way before then, right? Mm-hmm. When did you two meet?
So me and Ethan been knowing each other since I would call it like elementary school, like Lomond, and I would say grew up together, but we didn't grow up on the same path. Kind of how, like, for instance, me and maybe somebody who may be one of my best friends, we were just kind of associates at one point. But then, over time, you kind of develop different relationships with people, and so over time we became more and more friends. So when I came home from college, we actually had moved in the same neighborhood, and that's how we got it, to be friends and be close or whatever.
Nice. So did you always know that he would be an entrepreneur?
Yeah. I mean, this is something that we always wanted to do. Like, he wanted to do this from jump. Like, he wanted to do this. He never wanted to work a regular job. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's not a lot of people who are in my circle who really want to work a regular job. So it wasn't out of the ordinary. It was kind of like something that we all was like, oh yeah, like we all want to own a business. We all want to be that type of person.
And now you're the COO of his business.
Yeah.
So how has your role evolved since you started?
So when I first started, I feel like it was just more trying to grasp the business as far as just who actually, owns this part of the business, who actually can delegate certain powers, who actually has certain powers, who can do certain things, and where to go and who to talk to. Like, I think that was really the first role that I had, was just gathering information more so than trying to bring anything to the company, more so just understanding the business in a whole, like the food business. The food industry is a really big industry to try to learn. And so for the first year, I was just learning the industry.
So where do you feel you are now? What's your role in the company now?
So now I'm more so, I would say somebody who delegates tasks and who pretty much just handle things that need to be handled on a higher executive level. Meaning, if I need to talk to a grocery store, like a big grocery store, so I need to talk to Kroger and I need to talk to their buyer, I'll talk to them. Or if I needed to talk to a distributor or try to get into a different company or try to work with different companies, I can talk to them.
So how do you feel you developed those skills?
I think I developed those skills really just through actually having to sit there and watch somebody do it, and then literally having to be on the spot and do it myself. It wasn't a thing where it was like, all right, I saw him do it, and then it was like, all right, well, I'll get that chance one day. It was like I watched him do it, and then he was like, all right, 2 minutes later, you need to call this person and do the same thing I just did.
Right.
And so it was like having that experience and gaining that experience over and over, trial and error. Like, you start to figure out literally different personalities in the food industry. Like, as soon as you pick up the phone and that person speaks, what type of person they're going to be. And I think just literally talking to somebody every day and trying to do that every day as a job is going to evolve you very quickly to understand how to maneuver in the industry.
Nice. So let's get to the funding. When you started with the company, what stage were they in? Were they looking for seed funding still? Were they turning a profit?
They were definitely looking for seed funding, looking for ways to turn a profit, and just different opportunities to make money. So one big thing that we did was we did food shows, which are So let me just take a step back. So when you're in the food industry, there are two ways that you can get into a grocery store, which is direct, and then you can go through what they call a distributor, which is a company. A distributor is a company that literally mass buys food. They buy food in bulk and they sell it to the grocery store in a sense. So they cut a profit because they put, their 3 or 5% onto the products that they have, And so a big thing is to try to get into these companies, get into those distributors. The more distributors that you have, the more money and the bigger purchase orders that you have. They usually do the bigger orders. Grocery stores don't usually do bigger orders. So what we tried to do was get into food shows, and food shows are like these literal kind of, I would say, flea market style setups, and it's like a bunch of different companies in booths in a big building, and you just go around and it's just different companies. And so if you get one of these booths, you have all of these different buyers literally walking around, and they could pick up your company. So you can get business from places like Nebraska, places like Omaha, just different places that you would never think oh, I would be in that grocery store, I would be in that place, just by going to these shows. So that's a big part of it, going to food shows. And so that is really a big part of funding, because what that is direct buying. So they're literally buying in bulk. You're making that money right then. Another way is we did food competitions, kind of like Shark Tank type stuff, And so we actually won a really big one, and we won $50,000, and it was that kicked a lot of things off, because then we had the money to do the things that we needed to do. But also, in having that money, it's a lot of drawbacks.
Drawbacks like what?
So when you get $50,000, right, you're trying to figure out how to take $50,000 and make $100,000. So you're doing things in the sense that you're going to spend a lot of money up front. And if those things don't pan out, you're going to still keep spending money. So I'll give you an example. Say you have to make a whole bunch of product, and you buy all of these resources, say all of the ingredients to make your product, and say you can't get in the kitchen that week. You go to the kitchen that next week, half of that product that you bought was spoiled. It rotted. Yeah. Because they didn't have the space. So now you just wasted money. So now you have to then rebuy that product and then make your product again, hoping that the pH level was correct, hoping that everything is up to standard and that it tastes right. Because I've seen literally people make 70 cases of product and it all go bad. And that costs a lot of money for everybody.
You're touching on a very important point. With food companies, it takes a lot of capital going in to get things started, whether that's finding the perfect recipe, whether that's manufacturing, whether it's entering those food shows. What was the biggest expense at the beginning?
I would say the biggest expense is just paying people, paying yourself your own bills. You have to pay, you gotta live. So unfortunately, when you're doing things, you gotta be oh dang, I've gotta pay my rent this month. And not only that, but if you got somebody else working for you, their rent gotta get paid too, or they're not gonna want to work for you. And so what ends up happening is, I think literally payroll is one of the biggest things that kind of shoots people in the foot when they first start, because they don't take that into consideration. When they're getting people, they just hire a bunch of people and forget I gotta pay all of these people. So it's you're buying food, you're buying when I say food, I mean the ingredients. You're buying the ingredients. You're paying for paperwork. You're paying little menial fees for the ODA, FDA, little minute things, and then you forget, oh, I got payroll at the end of the week, and this doesn't stop because these people need to get paid every week. So it's not. So this is a reoccurring bill. Those reoccurring bills shoot you in the foot in the long run.
So how have you guys been funding this? Have you ever ventured out to a lender or looking into a line of credit?
So there are two ways. There are multiple ways. You said one, which is, you can obviously look for a line of credit. They also have another thing called companies. These companies, they buy purchase orders. And so say you had a company and you had an order from Marks and they wanted $3,000 worth of your product, it's a company that will come in and they will literally buy that order from you, and they'll give you the money up front, obviously for a nominal fee. So that's also another way. You also have personal lenders. So meaning if you know somebody personally that can lend you the money. And then I would say the fourth way is to try to get terms on everything that you need. Meaning if you have a purchase order, you can kind of use that purchase order in a sense as credit to these other people. So you could say, well, I get paid in 30 days and this is the actual receipt that that this person gave me. And so you'll go to them and say, hey, can I get term, like a 30-day term for this, or a 45-day terms for your ingredients and maybe for the kitchen space. And then you can make your money, and then once you get the check, you can break them off.
Nice. So it seems like Holmes Mouthwatering Applesauce had a lot of success with those food shows because you're all over Ohio. So could you tell me, what do you think it takes to make a successful deal with a distributor?
A successful deal with a distributor, to be honest, it all lends itself to really three things. If the person really kind of likes you and the company, because a lot of people don't understand that these connections in this network that is built over time is all personal. Meaning these people have been working together for years, and that's how these companies grow to this size, because it's two friends and they both, have been working with each other, and they know each other, so they're gonna make sure that their product is on the shelves and make sure that everything is stocked. So you have, if they like you or not, B, your profit margin. Are they gonna make their 3 to 5%, or are they gonna make their 30%? Or the grocery store is gonna be able to make their 30%? So those are things that they look for. And then I would say thirdly, just the overall goal of your company. If your company is looking to be bigger and looking to fulfill these orders, and you have a good history, they will probably get you. But if you don't have a good history, you don't have a good backing, then they probably won't. It's really that simple. If you have a good company, a good product, and you're standing by something and you have a profit margin, you'll probably make it. But if you don't, then you won't.
So for companies that don't have that history, how can they make that first relationship? How can they get their foot in the door?
Cold calling. Call everybody you can. That's the only way. It's literally the only way. It's no other way. That's the only way that we made any money. Everything that we did was completely cold call. We got the number and we called the person.
So who was on your list? Was it the grocer?
As far as who we called, our list was more so we looked at distributors who were closer and closer in Ohio, meaning we looked at Southern Ohio, a little bit Pennsylvania, that type of area. And then we also just looked at grocery stores who were around us. Who was the biggest grocery stores? Who were the smallest? How many stores were available? And then we actually just kind of looked at, okay, maybe we'll say these 5 stores they all got 20, 30 stores. So let's try to figure out how to get into these 5 stores. And we just kind of use a focus group, and we just kind of worked on those. We made sure we followed up a lot. That's really all you got to do. You keep following up. You send what they want. You send the paper. You gonna get a yes or a no. It's that simple.
And so when you're doing these follow-ups, who are you communicating with? Who's the decision maker?
It depends. It's usually if you're a food company, it's usually the buyer of that said department. So we're Applesauce, so we're usually in the grocery or sauces. So we're usually talking to the grocery buyer or the sauce buyer.
So I want to know, how hard was it to really find your target audience, and do the grocers or the distributors care about this?
Your target audience is really hard to grasp, because we don't even we know who we want to sell to, but in all honesty, we don't really know who actually buys the product. Because you just see numbers, you don't see the people. So you have to do demos, which are you go in the grocery stores, you see people sampling the products. like that. So we'll send out, literally our people will go out and do it. I'll do one, the owner may do one, and so we can literally see the people physically. We know who likes the sauce. We say, oh, older people, you know, don't like this about the sauce, younger people don't like this about the sauce. So we try to combine those efforts because we're literally right there. You just told me this, you know. I actually had one lady who came up to me. I was doing a demo, and she was like, you know, I was eating y'all applesauce, and I ate a Hall, and you know, I just hate Halls, and da-da-da. And I was like, well, what she didn't know was she thought I was just you know, somebody who just had no kind of like, you know, say so in the company. So she just telling me, I was like, I just want you to tell whoever's in charge, da-da-da. She's not even knowing. I'm the person who buys the fruit. I literally watch people, you know, clean this fruit, watch people go through all of this, and I just explained to her the process. I said, hey, you know, we definitely understand, and I'm definitely gonna take that into consideration. But one thing that we wanted you to know is that we do everything that we can to ensure that you're eating the best, you know, possible product that you can. And you got to understand, we're processing hundreds of apples by hand. So when I said that, she took that, oh, wow, now I understand, you know, because if you're doing everything with a big machine, you could just, you know, put them in the machine. But I'm like, all this is by hand.
It's the story behind the brand.
Exactly. So you have actual people making this product. This is not just machinery that is just, you know, people just throwing food into machinery and just getting it done. This is like people actually hand picking, hand slicing, hand cutting. And she's like, oh, wow, you know, and that really changed her mind about the product.
Yeah, it's got me wanting to taste it.
Right.
So where can people find it if they want to try the applesauce?
So we're located in a plethora of stores, including Whole Foods, Heinen's, Kroger. We're in Mark's. We're in Dave's. We're in the Cleveland Clinic Wellness store. We're in a few local gas stations. So really, and we're in Giant Eagle Market District, not the actual Giant Eagle store. So any of those stores, you can go and check those out.
Okay. So would you say that Cleveland's a good market? Do you think that food entrepreneurs should be setting up shop here?
Yes and no. Cleveland is a very funny city because we experience all different weather types. So with prepackaged foods, this is a really, really good town, a really good place to start a prepackaged food item. But as far as fresh food, fresh like fruits and fresh vegetables or something like that, I would say no. So it just depends on what side of the market you want to get into.
Okay. You've given us a lot of great advice on starting and funding a company in the food industry. But though you're working in the food industry, you're also known here in Cleveland for your music. Oh. You're part of a band, Uptown Buddha. And again, through your band, you're working with childhood friends, right?
Yes, of course.
So what inspired y'all to start a band?
So we really, it's so funny because this is a band that I actually grew up liking. I was never in the band in the beginning, and that's the funniest part. Like, my best friend was in the band. His name is G, and he was in the band or whatever, and I was like, dang, like, you know, we used to always go and see the group, and I was like, dang, I want to get in this group. So I started to learn the songs. I started to learn the music on my own. And once I learned the music on my own, like, I remember one day he was like, yeah, man, just come to a rehearsal. I came to rehearsal and I started playing. They was just taking it back that I knew the music. And so I got in the band, and that's how I got in the band. But it really started years ago with two friends. They just started playing in it was like a talent show. And they just kept going.
Yeah. So outside of the music, there's a lot that goes into a band. What does it take to get a band booked and performing? And
it's funny that you say that because it's really the same thing as the food industry, cold calling. You have to literally, whatever venue you want to be at, whatever place you want to be at, you got to find who is in charge. And it's really not hard. You call and ask, who do I talk to play a show? And they'll tell you, and then you call that person, you get their contact, and you figure it out. From there you can get a door deal, or, you can try to get on to a show for like a bigger headliner or a smaller headliner. You probably won't get paid much, but you can get your foot in the door by just cold calling. I feel like it's so crazy because at the end of the day, if you want to do anything almost in this life, figure out the person to talk to and call them.
Yeah.
It's really that simple.
And with the band, there's opportunity for multiple streams of revenue because it's a brand as well. Have you guys ever ventured into apparel, even selling it online?
Yeah, we sell and sold T-shirts. We sold lighters. Like we had big lighters with our name on them, Uptown Buddha on them. We had hats at one point. I think we had hats, something like that. But yeah, we've done that. We've done streaming services. Also, just different type of gigs. Like, we did like weddings. Like instead of just doing a club gig, per se, we try to do a wedding, or we'll try to do like a private party or something like that. It's different ways to make money. You can be a corporate artist or you can be a club artist.
Okay, so what advice could you give someone trying to grow their brand through e-commerce?
I would say it's all about aesthetic, and women know the aesthetic that they're looking for. So probably you should hire a woman to do it, to literally make your website or make your page. Like honestly, they're the
hire
best
women.
Real talk.
So where can people listen to Uptown Buddha's music? Spotify.
Check us out on Spotify. Check us out on Apple Music. Look us up on YouTube. UPTOWNEBUDDHA. Uptown Buddha.
Nice. Thank you, David, for coming on the show. You have shared a lot of valuable information here with our community. Until next time, join our Facebook group, Founders Get Funds, and follow us on Twitter at Founders Get Fund. That's Founders Get Fund with no S. Thank you.
Thank you.
Want more? Subscribe to our YouTube channel to take a deeper look at this week's interview. For our blog, go to foundersgetfunds.com. For daily conversations on funding strategies